Super. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning, this Saturday morning. I think we will just begin because it's about 10 minutes past 10 now, and we will just keep admitting people as they join in. So, Karibuni Sana. My name is Patricia Rokello, and I'm the co-founder of Kayana. Kayana Create is a community of female entrepreneurs that come together primarily to support each other through an enabling environment. It's to support, because we believe deeply that women are the change that the world has been waiting for. And through enterprise, and we will see more and more women hone leadership skills and get into positions of leadership and hopefully create a better world. That's our deep desire. We work in three main areas. We work through community, as I've said, building a community of trust and support for each other, and collaborations like such as this, that what we're having with Lisha and NCBA, where we form deep collaborations that just support entrepreneurs across the ecosystem. And the last thing is we have a capacity building program known as Super Circles, where we support entrepreneurs to build capacity and ultimately find funding for their businesses. And that is why we have the call this morning. We're excited to see everybody who's coming nice and early and logged in, both men and women. And we intend to have an engaging session. So feel free to put any comments or what you desire to learn at the end of this session onto the call, so that the experts who are on the call today will be able to address some of those pertinent issues. We also suggest, as always, as in all Zoom calls, keep your mics muted at all times. And if you have a question and a query, please raise your hand, and the moderators will give you an opportunity at some point throughout the call to be able to either voice your comments or your concerns or your questions, and also in the chat so that we can address things as much as possible. We intend for the call to be about 1.5 hours with Q&A at the end, and let's just make it engaging. It's just about learning, lots and lots of learnings is what we envision by the end of this call. So karibuni sana. Yeah, so without further ado, I will introduce the first speaker and our host today, who is Susan Dungo from NCBA. Susan has great, Karibu sana, I'm saying at least you're waving. Susan has great experience in terms of business. She heads the small businesses section under the business banking, and also the portfolio monitoring. That's what she holds as one part of her portfolio, and is based out at NCBA House, Masaba Road. Susan, without much ado, you can probably introduce yourself more and the work in which you do with NCBA and the opportunities that, of course, the bank has. And thank you so much for hosting this session. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Pat, and good morning, business people, good morning, attendees. We're just happy to host you and to also talk about business, to talk about the bank, that is NCBA. And so we're here to have an interactive session, and I'll take you through what we have for you this morning. As you've been told, my name is Susan Lungu. In the bank, we have a department called business banking. Business banking deals with the small businesses where we categorize them as anyone with a turnover not more than 1.2 billion. However, those ones are medium. The ones we categorize as small is anyone with turnovers not more than 100 million. So anyone below there, we categorize them as small. We also categorize them in terms of funding, not more than 50 million in terms of funding. So anyone below there will be small business. So this morning, if Pat, you can allow me to share what I have.
Super. Patricia Mithika, please give her rights to share.
Yes, so you can see my screen, and I will just go straight to what we shall talk about today. I will narrow down to just the SME business and say the SME parameters are the needs. We look at the needs that the SME will, requires. Number one, we know that for SMEs, they require tailor-made solutions. They require speed in terms of turnaround with their requests. And also they require a good package. Of course, they just need a bridge to have their business moving forward. Every business person will open a business or will start a business so that it can grow and give them the return. However, there are still challenges that SMEs encounter, and we shall look at some of those, and then the solutions that we offer. Any business will always depend on a business venture. And these ventures, we know, and you all know, when you think of a business where you want to lie. Number one, you could be in manufacturing. So manufacturing also has different needs, and so we consider that. Businesses could also be just offering business services. This one is very, very wide in terms of the entities that you can actually start in terms of business services. We have ICT, we have the suppliers, we have mechanics, we have the beauty salons, we have, name them, the hospitality. All these, we categorize them under business services. We have the real estate. This is big. Of course, we have developers. If you feel you have the capacity to go into real estate, construction lies here. Investments in terms of residential. The people who are in contracting, they contract with the government. Those ones, we put them under real estate. The ones who are also supporting that industry, the architects, the project managers, all of them, we categorize them under real estate. There's the distribution. Distribution could be the transporters, the marketers, and also basically the people who sell, who distribute the goods from the manufacturer all the way down to the consumer. Wherever you lie in between there, we categorize them as under distribution. The trading companies and retailing, this is also very wide. They are importers who bring in goods to the country and then have to resell. There are those ones who go in between the manufacturers and the retailers. We also categorize them here. Anyone who's buying from the farm, from the farms in terms of agriculture and have to resell, we also categorize them there. The small shops in town, the small shops in the estates, all of those are retail and they're retailers. So we categorize them under these. Export and import, we also facilitate importers, I said. There are those who just import and then offload after importation. Others import and then go through the process of retailing the same goods. The exporters are mainly the agriculture and people who have manufacturing goods here, and then facilitate the exportation to their proposed markets. So each segment, we say, has different needs. And what we do is that we sit down with the business person and understand exactly what is their chain of business so that we can be able to serve their point of need. So number one, you have to have access to information. So we have personalized RMs in terms of relationship management. You will speak to one who will be able to understand your business, understand where cash comes in, where cash goes out, where there's a gap. You realize that in business, you might be, you might get to a point where you have given out cash, you have bought the goods, you have the goods. Yes, they're in your store, but you haven't sold them. Yet that store has to be paid for, so that's still a gap. And up to when you sell those goods is when money will come back and have the cycle running. So we tend to try and understand exactly what your business requires. Of course, it is different depending on the business. In real estate, if you put in money, you might get that money way later after 2 years or 3 years when the building is complete. So we look at what happens in between. You could be having another source of income. So we get just to understand, to access the information. Then access to funding. From that conversation, then we propose what funding that you require. Of course, in your discussions with the relationship manager, then you're able to know exactly, or you're able to view, to give your view in terms of what is required in the business. So NCBA is able to do that for you. Access to markets. This is almost entirely to the business person. By the time you do a business proposal, or by the time you're in business, you know exactly where you want to sell your goods. If you want to stay at the shop and people come, you know how many people come. But we go a step further and try occasionally to connect the business people to markets. Every year at business banking, we get a group of business people, and we take them out to trips outside the country. Apart from last year because of COVID, and this year we haven't done so. But the previous years, we get a group of business people who we've taken to China. We've gone to China quite a number of times with them, and just try to expose them to the markets that are there. Number one, in China, you'll get manufacturers, you'll get collaborations with other business people that will really enrich your business. We've seen in the past just businessmen coming up with ideas that have taken them to the next level in their business. We've gone to Turkey, and this we do, of course, in collaboration with the businessmen that we are talking to on a daily basis, and try and get those needs. Internally, because we may not have all the markets outside, internally we come up with forums yearly where businessmen will meet like we are meeting today, and we give them an opportunity to just exchange ideas. In this forum, you'll find that there's a manufacturer, and there's also a retailer of the same kind of goods that this manufacturer is doing. So once we have these forums, then you're able to connect better to a market. But again, our role here is it's not 100%. The role here in terms of market is entirely on the business person and their efforts. Then we have access to training, and I think that's one of the needs that SME requires. The thing is, even if an SME, you talk to any SME, they will say all the time, they say it's, if I had money, I would do this. If I had money, I would increase this part of the department. I would do one, two, three things. But sometimes it's not just about money. We've seen where we have pumped in money in a business, we kept pumping money, but there's still a lot of things that would be missing out. So even if the money comes into the business, you need the know-how to actually utilize that money. You need the best skills to run a business. Most of the small business people would go into a business based on an experience of a friend, based on an experience of what you've been seeing your shopkeeper doing, or what you've read in books. But when you get down to the business, then it is you making the decisions. And sometimes you can make decisions that are not quite, favorable for your business. So training is very important in a business. You need to have managers. Yourself as the proprietor, you need to have the best training to run the business. And the people you also hire require the proper training and the proper skills to run your business, so that even when you're looking for the markets, when you're looking for funding, when you're getting information about your business, then it lands into hands that can actually actualize your dream. So that is very important. And here again, it's the business person who will take up that step. So what we do just to try and bridge this gap, we have collaborated with Strathmore Business School, where they train businessmen how to run their businesses. Of course, once in a class with other business people, experiences are many, and Strathmore Business School knows how to do this very well. The school fees we co-pay, we support partly, and you get a very supplemented school fees that you need to pay. So the successful businesses will start with the owners and then gradually have their managers or their staff to gain these skills. So if you have this gap, every year we have a class. Last month we graduated a whole class that was there from 2020 2021. The training at Strathmore is very flexible. Again, for SMEs, you cannot be full-time in class because your business needs to run. So they come up with very, very favorable schedules. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's twice a week, depending on how it will be structured in terms of the whole curricula that needs to be met. So that is also an opportunity. And we've seen the people who have gone this training put it into practice in their business. We have seen, and we have, we've had success stories from that. We've had people who never used to pay themselves from a business, and they were taught how to start paying themselves and keeping proper records, how to manage staff, how to manage cash flows. And so I think I would vouch and say that it has been very, very beneficial. Then to become competitive, increased sales, streamlined costs, more efficient HR and processes. This one now goes with all of this. For you to become competitive, you need all these facts. You need to have access to information. You need to have access to funding. You need to have access to markets. You need to have well-trained staff and yourself so that you can remain competitive in your own market. So that is in a nutshell what we have in a long time known what the SME business needs. The challenges that SMEs have, of course, I just started with the COVID-19 pandemic. This one, we started talking about it from last year. It caught everybody by surprise. But some of these things, I think, going forward, we need to be planning for them. What would you do in your business if such a pandemic came? Or what would you do if a disaster struck your business? So those are some of the challenges which are beyond our control. But going to the next one, cash flow management, lack of proper audited books. We have seen business people who just do business. Others keep the records in their heads. Others just write on pieces of paper and sometimes not proper records. This, although with time, today is not as it were 5 years ago. I think most people have gone into computerized record keeping, there's M-Pesa, there's all this technology that has put people at a higher level, but it is very, very important for any business to keep records. And this we keep struggling with on a daily basis. We meet a business person and they say they are doing really, really well, but when you ask for records, it doesn't show. So that becomes a challenge for us, even in business. Lack of collateral, this is also a major challenge for SMEs. The small business will start a business, and sometimes when you come to the bank, we ask you for security. Of course, we ask for security because we are not in your business, and once we give you our money, we want to have a fallback position when that business is not running. So we have looked into this and tried to just support the SMEs. Their insurance covers that have come up. We have some that I will talk about just later in this forum on how we try and beef up or at least support SMEs on the side of lack of collateral. Credit worthiness, this has become big, even in the news lately this week. People are complaining of how they are listed at CRB. But this is something that over time has seen to help the lenders just streamline on performance of the repayment of loans and repayment of the credit facilities. Number one, we would have businessmen taking money from all institutions and then end up not paying, and we end up running after one person, all of us. So I think this one has helped us. But again, it's up to the business person to ensure that their credit worthiness is kept at very high levels. It is important that if you take a debt for the business, you pay. And if you can't be able to pay in time, ensure that you engage your lender or your banker, or engage us so that we are able to keep your credit worthiness at a high rate, even for your future. If you spoil these ratings, then you know that your business can run into cash crunch and you're not able to access this funding. Cost of credit is also one of the challenges that we have seen SMEs encounter. In this market, I think it is very expensive for an SME to get credit. I hear that abroad the interest rates are very low, but our economy has not been that favorable. So cost of credit, I know you might get funding, and that cost of credit just affects your business. So it is best that you negotiate to the best rates. Do not get into very expensive lending. It is good to also weigh, because this can take away your capital, or you run into problems in terms of cash flows. So those are just general, the general challenges for SMEs. And so I will take you through the solutions that we give at NCBA. NCBA, you will get financing solutions, and we try and tailor make for your business. So I'll take you through just some of the products that we offer. We offer business loans and working capital loans. The term loans is what everybody is familiar with, where you just want to take a loan, put in the business, and then start repaying at a fixed installment on a monthly basis. I think that one is familiar to everyone. Business overdrafts is where we evaluate your business, as I said earlier, that you have a business, you have a cash flow gap, and we need to know that you have used money, you use money to buy goods. For example, you buy goods, put them in your store, and before you offload these goods to get back your cash, You need to pay rent, you need to pay salaries, you need to pay the transportation of those goods. And probably the people you're selling to have also negotiated for a credit term, say 30 days or 60 days. So you have a cash flow gap. Your business is up and running, but sometimes you'll walk into your business and you have no cash because you have used all of it and it hasn't come back. So we try and evaluate what kind of an overdraft or amount that will fit your business just to finance your fixed costs, not to finance the purchase of stock. It is to finance your cash flow gap in terms of fixed costs, so that the business can keep running as you try and collect money, and once it comes back, you're able to again buy and continue with the cycle. Then the other one is stock loans, revolving and non-revolving. So if you're sorted with the fixed costs, now we'll go ahead and probably sort out to buy that stock. You might want to just expand. You've been buying stocks worth 5 million, and the cycle has been running well, but now you want to take it a notch higher depending on the demand you're seeing with your goods. So we give you a certain amount, of course, as per agreement and as per analysis. We give you a stock loan. That stock loan can be for once, or rather one-off, where you buy that stock and then you continue running and then pay per month just as a term loan. That is the non-revolving. The revolving one is where we just take care of that stock, and then we count the number of days that it will take for that stock to get offloaded. So, for example, if you get a contract, we finance you to manage that contract, and then we wait for the money from the uptaker. If it's the government, when they shall pay, if they pay after 30 days, or after 60 days, after 90 days, there are others who even pay after 150 days, 3 months, 4 months. So we give you that stock loan and wait until the government pays or your debtor pays. Then we pay off that loan and finish. Then do the next cycle. So it keeps going and revolving for that period. If we choose 180 days, then it will be revolving twice a year. And that's what we call the revolving. This one sorts out your daily working capital. Invoice discounting. Invoice discounting is where you have already invoiced for either work done or goods delivered, and you have the terms. Again, you've been told you'll be paid after 90 days. However, you still need to pay your, either to buy more stock or to pay for other contracts or for other needs, for other cash needs. So we discount that invoice. We usually discount at 70-80%. So we'll give you the money upfront in the hope that once the money comes back, we shall be paid, you get your cut, and the bank gets their cut, and we are over and done with that facility. Contract financing. Contract financing works just as the stock loan. I had mentioned earlier that if you get a contract, you need money to perform on that contract, but you will be paid after completion of that contract. Then we give you money to do the contract, and then we sit both and wait for the money to come. And once it comes, it clears off that debt, and you're left with your margin or with whatever you had put in, and then we wait for the next. Here we give a limit. Sometimes if you're a contractor, we can give you a limit depending on your needs, and you're going to keep drawing from that contract depending on the LPOs that you're given or the orders to do the contracts that come. SAWI or mobile lending. This one we do through the mobile. Mobile lending is very, very direct. You only need to, the system will calculate the amount of money that you require to be given in terms of the number of transactions that you've been running. This basically happens to individuals. Your account will be running, depending on the amount that you've been depositing, the system will calculate how much you can be able to borrow. They are small amounts, but we say it's up to 500,000. So depending on the turnovers that you put in. Property financing solutions, we have mortgages. Those I'm sure they're familiar to you. We give up to 10 years for businesses for repayment. And we also finance residential properties at 75%, commercial properties at 60%. Construction loans, that is where you already have land that you need to construct. Then we give you a construction loan, which we tend to finance what you have already put in. So we want you to put in your first money, and then we keep like reimbursing you from architect certificates that the architect will confirm as works done up to completion. Of course, during construction, we give you a grace period. You only pay the interest. So again, we evaluate that you're able to pay interest. And then after that, you can start repaying. Construction loans can be construction for sale of that property or for rental. So for sale, we also evaluate the period that you're going to be able to offload those units. So it doesn't go beyond 3 years, because you need to also have a plan on how you market those units. For construction, for rental income, once it's complete, we assume that you're going to put in tenants and you're going to start earning rental income. So we give you, it becomes a mortgage after that. So we give you up to 10 years maximum so that you're able to repay that loan. Equity release is also a property financing solution, where if you have a property, you already bought a property, you've been owning it, it has no debt, you decide you want to get back a portion of the money that you had used. And sometimes it's not what you had used, it's a portion of the money that the value of that property. So again, here we just say that you take money back and then you repay it to a maximum of 10 years. Here, of course, we want to know what you want to do with the money. So if it's for business, we want to see that there's a business. If it's, you know, whatever the reason it is, we want to see that that reason will also be, you know, will be accomplished. Asset finance solutions, NCBA, we are known for our asset finance solutions. We give you vehicle and equipment financing. Within 2 days, you will know if you're being given the loan, and it's very quick. We have various percentages for new vehicles. For new vehicles, we give even up to 90% financing. For any older vehicles, maximum 70% financing. For equipment, we do 50% financing, but at the same time, it's negotiable depending on what deal you're bringing to the table. Auto equity loans is when you have a loan, you have a vehicle, and it has no loan, but now you want to take a loan probably for business, and you want to give it as security. So we give you at 50% of the value. Vehicle refinancing, this vehicle refinancing and equity loans are almost the same, but for vehicle refinancing is where we give you, you have already paid up one vehicle, and then we use that same vehicle to buy another vehicle. So it's almost like the auto equity loan, again with the same terms and the same kind of discounting. Leasing is where you have a business and you have a lot of, we have it in 2 ways. One is the operating lease, where you, instead of buying equipment and instead of buying for example, instead of buying vehicles, you lease them, and on a monthly basis, you'll be paying a leasing or rentals because you'll have leased, you'll be paying rentals, and then you'll be using the vehicle. If the period of leasing is over, you have the option of buying it back or just returning it back to the owners and picking probably a new set. So this one is that is also leasing. The other one is where you have equipment in your business and it is holding a lot of cash. For example, in a manufacturing business, you have a lot of equipment that keep holding capital. So you can get a leasing solution where those equipment are leased. All you can be paying is the operating lease on a monthly basis. Of course, it has a period, it has its own terms and conditions. And if you visit us, we can always give you more details about it. Support for collateral. I had mentioned that I will explain to you how we have tried to assist SMEs with collateral. It is a requirement by central bank that it's good the bank also protects the assets, or rather the loans that we give, and that's why, as I said earlier, we need a fallback position where if you give us collateral, if it's a property, if you fail to pay because we give you the money and you're the one running the business, we can be able to sell that property in case you're unable to pay. However, many SMEs will not have collateral sufficient to cover the funding that they require. So there's always a mismatch. You might have a plot, but the amount of money I can give you against that plot is not sufficient. So we have the African Guarantee Fund. This is a fund that saw that gap and offered to give SMEs guarantee. So this fund will secure 50% of your lending. So again, if you have a plot that is, we can only give you 50%. The other 50% will be guaranteed by Africa Guarantee. I was speaking about Africa Guarantee Fund, which secures 50%. So that we take, they charge 2% only upfront, and then after that, you have to repay as per agreement. We have ATI. ATI is Africa Guarantee. No, it's Africa Trading Insurance. Sorry about that. It's Africa Trading Insurance. They cover the business people who are in trading. So they will not cover real estate. They will not cover, they're actually choosy on what they cover, but they want to cover the business people who, like contractors who will be given contracts, and the off-takers take time to pay. So they're just a bit choosy, but they will look at the off-taker. They will take the government off-takers. They will take good parties. If the people you're working for or the people you're supplying for goods are parties that they consider respectable, they will pay, then they cover you. They cover 75%. All you need to do is give the 15%. Sometimes they would go lower to 60% depending on the risk that they find in your business. They will go 60% and you cover the 40%. Usually you could cover, they leave us to either take cash cover or take any other form of security that is acceptable to the bank, and then they cover the rest. If you default, they pay that portion as so long as the due process is followed. So that really has seen most of the business people benefit and be able to access funding. Government guarantee scheme, this is new. We signed up with the government last year in December. The government due to the COVID-19 pressures, offered to give a guarantee to the small businesses. And here we are saying to the very small businesses, because they are guaranteeing any funding up to 5 million. Up to 5 million, they guarantee 50%. So if you come borrowing 5 million, they guarantee 50 and we ask you for security for only 50%. So 2.5 you secure, the other 2.5 the government guarantees. And this one, they entirely rely on the bank that the person we are giving will also be able to pay the full amount. The conditions here is that the funding is not more than 5 million, as I said. There is no fee to be paid. It's for the government. To get this, it is totally free. You must repay this loan within 3 years. Anything going beyond 3 years, we cannot put it under this guarantee scheme. Acceptable collateral, I've been saying that you cover. We accept land. We accept both developed and non-developed. We, of course, discount differently. We accept government bonds. We accept shares. These are marketable securities. We accept vehicles, and also we accept cash. So just top 10 concerns in 2021. We did a survey, and what affected SMEs most? Number one were the lockdowns. That one was affected the SMEs very, very, the most in 2021. Of course, spilling over from 2020. Lack of knowledge about Brexit and legislation of requirements. This affected the pricing of cash, but mostly affected the importers and exporters. Coronavirus regulations, people were not able to perform normally. They were not able to trade normally. Close down of businesses here and there, hospitality. Of course, if tourism is down, it affects quite a huge part of the economy. Decline of the high cash flow. Let me just go through all of them. Cash flow, late payments. We've had a lot of restructures. We've had a lot of people just going into businesses going down on their knees. They can no longer pay their employees. Pay cuts came in, and so cash flows. And what we did here is we did a lot of restructures, which we continue to do even now, although the window for the government for the mass restructures ended in March. But we continue to listen to our customers, just to listen to what is serviceable now and what solutions we can offer. Competition from local businesses. Competition will always be there. In your business, you might be thriving, and sooner or later next door somebody comes and opens the same kind of shop, or even one of your employees goes and opens the same kind of shop, and sooner or later he's taken over your customers. So this one continuously we hear from business people, which affects their operations. Lack of marketing knowledge, I think I had also spoken about that. Political landscape. This one affects everybody, and we are looking now to have 2022 with the electioneering year. We don't know how it's going to be, so we need to keep all this in mind. And basically, my presentation will end there. I will take questions. I don't know if I'm taking questions now or after the whole presentations.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that informative presentation. I think we will take questions at the end of the forum, so that we can also give Dennis a chance to make his presentation. There are lots of comments as well in the chat that as Dennis is speaking, I think you can answer some of them to keep everybody engaged. And anybody with questions, please continue to ask them on the chat, and let's keep engaged. Wangeshi, thank you for your contributions that you're making there, and giving people great information, because I know there are lots and lots of resources on this call that can actually help us in the learning process, so that it's engaging for everybody. Yes, so continue to ask questions as I introduce Dennis from Lisha Fund. Karibu, Dennis, I see your camera is already on. I met Dennis, I think about two or 3 months ago, 2 months, I would say 2 months ago, and we had some really engaging conversations at Lisha Fund office, and the work that Lisha Fund is doing specifically for businesses that are in food and beverage. And Dennis, you'll give us a little bit more information on why you picked those sectors. Although me, I'm quite excited that with my women in Kayana, that's our sector. So Karibu, Dennis. Dennis has great experience. He himself has been an entrepreneur and has had his business funded and sold, and has lived both in Europe and in Africa, South Africa. And I just found him a wealth of knowledge when I met him, and I'm excited to share Dennis with the community as well as Lisha Fund. Karibu sana, Dennis. Susan, you will give Patricia back rights to host. Dennis, I think as a co-host, you should be able to share if you have a presentation, but Karibu to the community.
Yeah, thank you, Pat, for the introduction. Thanks, Susan, for the introductory meeting. NCBA is actually my banker, so that was a quick rundown of the things, other things that I'm working with NCBA and other things that I can benefit from NCBA, so that was really enlightening to hear. I'll do a quick presentation because normally I like more Q&A, so I'll try and run this. I'll try and run this within the shortest time possible. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Super.
Thanks. So as Pat had said, we started Lisha Fund. I think this is our 6th month. We started trying different models, working with ecosystem players or partners who support local businesses, and then we've taken that back, and we're now building an internal team because we just think that what you're trying to do hasn't been really done in the ways we want to have it done. And it's really this idea of the big layer of a small business. And I think this line has been used repeatedly across the world, across in Kenya, where you find that most SMEs will look something like this. So you find that as your revenues are growing, your costs are also growing. And this is actual data for all the transactions or statements that we analyze for our businesses that, one, were requesting for funding or we were evaluating for funding. And initially when we started, we were purely focused on finding businesses that have some bit of traction and then putting in some money, same things or similar things that Susan was talking about. But actually what we did find is that it's a really hard business to be profitable, because sometimes it's not just the microloan that the business needs, it needs more than that. So that's why we thought that this is a misnomer. There's something that is fundamentally broken about running a small businesses, that either people already know, but there's no real investment or intention to really address those kinds of problems. So we had to go back to the drawing board. That's why we said, we started sometime in January. We've had to do some bits of iteration, but I think now we've got some kind of momentum. And I'll want to talk about that and why we specifically chose food and drink. So when you look at our economy, this is just Kenya. I didn't even do like an extrapolation of Pan-Africa, which is where we think this fund might grow into and go into in the next couple of years. One, we are a very growing economy in terms of population. So you have up north of 50 million people. Most of those are within the 50% bracket. So it's really people within 18 years to 40 years, working class with some bit of money to spend. And the interesting thing is that most of our GDP is consumption driven. So we don't do loads of manufacturing, we don't do loads of inventions, we don't do loads of innovations, we basically get a paycheck, buy things, repeat. And we thought, how can we think about that consumption rate or consumption nature of our economies and create a value for local brands? Because one of the things that you notice, if you go into a local supermarket store, you find that any differentiated packaged product that pops out on the shelf in the supermarket is probably imported. And the same cannot be said of your local brands. So we are finding this challenge where we are spending a lot of our capital in imported food and drink products and less within local markets. And we're trying to find the opportunity for this emerging class of people who are looking for more aspirational and affordable products. But also what you're producing is inefficiencies at scale. So something that looks like the previous graph that I showed you, because our economy is highly fragmented from labor markets, from distribution, from supply chain, from how we grow and farm our products. And you find that this model is really hard to scale and it's expensive. But also, even as we are trying to do that, the margins in manufacturing businesses are really quite small. And before we started, I tried and did like a mystery buyer. So NCBA is my banker, does my business banking. I have another green-white bank that does my personal banking. And I was just trying to do research of what does it take for a business or an individual to actually get funding. And one of the things that probably Susan hasn't told you is that she'll probably start asking you for a 3-year financial statement and audited books, right? So one, if you're at an idea stage or just working a prototype, your company is unvetted. So your traditional funder or your traditional financial institution won't give you capital unless you have some bit of traction. So increasingly, you're finding that most of our businesses will become undercapitalized and underfunded for a very long time, unless you have your own personal savings or you're doing a business as a side business, and then you're working your day job, and then from that day job, you're investing back in business, or you're coming from a family of a circle of friends that can take the risk and put in the money from you or for you, and then grow your business, and then at some point down the line when you're 3 years in operation, then go to a bank and try and find funding. So that's the challenge, and I think most of the people in this room or in this call would agree with me, because this is first-hand experience trying to run a small business. My thing is not moving, right? Yeah. So we see a lot of opportunities. So our kinds of businesses that you've seen that are really up for opportunity are businesses that initially we thought of, oh, let's find businesses that are doing at least 1 million in revenue. But actually at 1 million in revenue, most of those businesses would probably qualify for a traditional lender. And you're trying to find the most marginalized and banked small businesses that have a lot of potential. So we lowered that bar and we said, let's find businesses that have anything between 50K to 500K in revenue. And what you're finding is that there's significant growth opportunity for these kinds of businesses. So it's very easy for you to scale a business from, say, 65,000 a month to 6 million a month. That's almost 600% growth. While it's really hard for you to scale a business from, say, 10 million a month to even 20 million a month. That's quite significant. And in addition to this challenge of growth and ability to grow small businesses, you also find that most of them are unlicensed and unregulated. So what that means is that they might really have a very interesting recipe of food or drink, but they can't sell to your traditional retail stores, or they can't sell direct to consumer because they're not compliant, and you can't sell a product that you're not qualified or meet the minimum standards for marketability. So one of the things that you're trying to find is, how do we then, just in addition to funding, bring a promising recipe of food or drink and get them standardized or certified? And then the monopolistic nature of incumbents, right? You know, big brands in Kenya, from global brands like Unilever to local brands that are literally distributed across multiple selling points in stores, in your kiosk, in your local dukas, and we're trying to compete against that incumbent power. One, they have the capital, they have the distribution, they have the ability, and you're working with informal food entrepreneurs, indie entrepreneurs that don't have the same levels of leverage. So how do we play in the same marketplace by reimagining the rules of the game? So that's what you're trying to do. So we are finding those small businesses producing from a kitchen table, producing from Kirdi, which lots of our businesses do, producing from your small SKU that you rented out, or your mom's SKU that she rented out to you, and you're trying to bring those businesses into production state and introduce new differentiated products in the market. And we think that there's an opportunity of around 1.7 billion of formalizing food and drink businesses just in Kenya. So even if you take a % of that share, we think there's significant opportunities that a lot of business can go into, and there's money to be made. So when I was asked to say, what do funders look for when they invest in businesses, I thought of flipping this question back, and I said, how can we do things different than what traditional investors or funders do? Because we've been there when I was starting my technology business, we've done that. And the people we see walking through our doors, they're people not different from us. So that is how I flip back the narrative. So if you go to any investor, they'll first tell you, oh, whatever you're trying to do is very crowded. But in our eyes, we see this as where there's competition, that means there's money to be made. The only thing you need to tell us is there's room to do it differently, and this is how you're going to do it differently. So that's how you need to rethink about your conversation when we have a one-on-one, or when you have a call, or when you have an engagement. The second thing that loads of funders will tell you is that, oh, you don't have any experience, so how are you going to build a business doing something like this? But the opportunity we see is that we like businesses that can thrive with perfectly normal people, because most of the people that we funded are people who were made redundant courtesy of COVID from last year. So there are people who are having their corporate job, their cushy salary, and then all of a sudden they found themselves on the street without a job. So they had to rethink about, what is my alternative source of income? So trying to lock them out just because they haven't produced food in the past, I think it's setting them up for failure. So we think of people who've gone ahead, worked out a recipe, worked out a product, walked through the door with the confidence, and showed you some kind of traction. So they're selling online, or they're selling in a small store, or they've got a contract that they need some capital to set up a plan to meet demand. So those kinds of problems are the kinds of things that excite us. And then, as much as we're looking at revenue, I said, we're looking at anything between 50 and 500K. That's not exciting for any investor. But what we are moving away from is really trying to do like a gamble with small businesses. And you're saying, you've sowed some seed, let's build and grow this business together. So we become more like cooperators with your business. And the other thing that most funders will tell you is that the business model is unscalable. And in our eyes, we believe that boring businesses have the most impact. Profit is in doing the things that don't scale. Because one, the barriers to entry are significantly high. So you won't have any other person copy-pasting your idea and stealing an opportunity that you worked blood, sweat, and tears to create, because it's just not, it's not interesting, it's not rosy. No one wants to muddy their hands and wake up at 4 a.m. trying to think about how to build their business. And when it's really hard for them to start similar or competing businesses that are unscalable, then we think that there's profit to be made in those kinds of businesses. So having said that, there are two things that constantly, I was actually just reading my notes last night when I was making this deck, that always come up over and over again. One is the product. So because this is the one thing that you can vouch your name on, You can't vouch how big the size of the opportunity is, but you can vouch how good the product is. Then you don't take corners and you don't take shortcuts on the product quality. So it has to be really well produced, of very high quality, tastes differently than any other generic product on the shelf. You really have had to thought through your branding and packaging, because these are more soft capital. You don't need a lot of capital to think about a creative way of naming a product or branding a product or telling your story, right? We need to see some kind of customer feedback and shopper data. Where are you selling? What are customers telling you about your product? What are the feedback? How is that feedback going back into your business? And how are you improving your business? And then we just don't like single products solving specific customer problems. We like seeing products that can expand into other categories that are not just opportunistic, but construct a larger brand narrative. So back to the example of, say, Unilever. Unilever has a variety of product lines. And for them to become a household name is because probably every other third product you use in your household is a Unilever brand. So in the same food and beverage category, how can you be known by equally adjacent products? So if you're producing a product A, what is the other adjacent product using the same ingredients that you can produce? So what that means is that you're expanding your category, you're expanding your market share, and importantly, you're improving your top line revenue. The other one that we talk about and we really find hard to even work with is distribution, because you're also a startup and you're trying to, how we model our fund is that we're giving you capital, but you're also giving you real market expertise in terms of sales and marketing to penetrate your market. So how we even decide to hire is we don't hire for accountants or finance or people who can analyze financial models. No, we hire for sales and marketing staff, people who can take your product from 0 to 1, who can take your product from 150 to 1 million in 6 months. Those are the kinds of resources that we resource as part of the fund. So if you come through the door and you show us there's some bit of traction, then you've won 80% of the funding. So the other thing is just the small details that you need to go with. The other thing that we've seen loads of people struggling, and I think this applies even outside of food and drink, is you try to close your big accounts like, oh, I want to be in this large retail like a Carrefour, Naivas, or Quickmart. But you forget that you can get into smaller stores, get smaller orders, use those revenue sales to validate your pitch in your next large retailer pitch, right? So rather than trying to get into larger stores, into few larger stores, because there's just a few, I think there are 3 or 4 in Kenya right now. Why can't you make your product sell out or distributed in smaller stores, and then based off those revenue, then go pitch to large retailers, and then optimize for reach over revenue, right? Because I like businesses that have more than 5 customers or 5 distribution points, making 200K rather than one business with 1 customer, we keep making 1 million in revenue, because your revenue is highly concentrated. That makes your business highly risky. If your one primary customer either goes bankrupt, runs out of business, or stops paying you, which has happened quite a lot, even courtesy of COVID from last year. So what we like seeing is that you've thought about your product, you've built an outstanding product, and you've seen that these are the places in which they can work. If you can own your distribution, and that is by saying that you've built your e-commerce site, for example, in places that you own the customer, you can send them directly your product to their door and still make a profit, then you're a better business than a business that is trying to sell to a retailer in order to list their product so that they can sell to their end customer. Yeah, and then really your distribution is your most important outlet. So I can never emphasize how important distribution is, and you'll notice that until you have it. So yeah, so don't try waste time looking the part, just create and sell something amazing. And that makes the difference between failure and success can be as simple as selling a product. And this is an example. So we look for ideas everywhere. We look for ideas through networks. We look for ideas on social media. We look for ideas through connections. People walk through our door. And this is one random evening. I was at home and I saw someone tweeted about a Greek yogurt brand. And you see how they were voting for it. My friend started a Greek yogurt business last year, and it's delicious, does not cut it. This is the IG page. I went to the IG page, inboxed the business, and I think within, when was this tweet? May. As of yesterday, and this is not even joking, this business one doesn't have a KEB certificate. This business two, we just funded, they're putting up their Greek yogurt operating facility. They're operating from a kitchen table somewhere in South Bay. But now they have got 2 contracts to supply to retail stores, 2 of the major retail stores in Kenya, 2 of the top major retail stores. So by virtue of saying that, you know which ones I'm talking about. They've got order commitments, and now we're working backwards to supply. So you're working to set up the plant, you're working to do the KEB certification, and then you're working up to do the distribution. So this is what I'm saying, something about the product, something about the brand. If your product and your branding can tell the story, then raising money or funding would be very easy. So having said that, as a reflection point is bring clarity and truth to the table. Know your business, know your market, know where you can sell and where you shouldn't be selling to. Follow your curiosity and seek out ideas. If everyone is doing yoga, don't go start another yoga business, because it will be really hard for you to sell in an already saturated market space. But if you take that and create another subcategory of yogurt and people like your product, then finding the market and the capital and the investment around your idea becomes an easy conversation. And then prioritize expenses that have a direct impact on sales. And then, of course, you have to negotiate for everything. Yeah, so we think that we first started thinking that maybe we should give small microloans to small businesses in manufacturing that do small food and drinks, but actually we are rethinking about the business model. So we are building small businesses. We're creating a blueprint of how we can build rather than bet on small businesses. This idea of giving a business money and then waiting for you to pay them, it just doesn't work. And I learned that very quickly. We bring deep operational excellence to running small businesses profitably. And we are really big on marketing and sales. As I said, if you go to our website, our resources, you'll see they're more sales focused and operational focused. I'm the only one who does investment analysis. Everyone else runs operations, everyone else runs market development. And then increasingly, we're using technology and data to aggressively drive sales and marketing. So we need to really bring down our cost of customer acquisition. And by doing that, we believe that we can build businesses that are inherently not scalable, but profitable. And our thinking is maybe funds should not be giving microloans to informal businesses or starting businesses, but they really should work together in building those small businesses. And that's it. And we hope that when you do that, so if this is the second modeling that we did, the same data set, controlling for some fixed costs, and we imagine that if we do that, then we'll be building mighty small businesses that are profitable, pay a decent founder salary, and create employment for everyone else who works in the enterprise. Thank you. That's it. And that's my email address. If you're in food and drink and you want to give me a shout out, just send me a quick email. We'll organize a call. If you like what you're doing, we'll put our funding, our expertise, and our talent behind growing your brand. And thanks, Pat, and your team for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for that presentation and just the insights that you have shared. Like you, I'm really passionate about small businesses, and I loved what you said, that it's about building profitable businesses. We at Kayana, that's what we believe in. You know, in a profitable business, you know, give opportunities to employment to other people as well. So thank you very, very much. I'm going to open it out to the floor. And anybody who has a comment or you'd like to ask the questions to the two panelists, both Susan and Dennis, please just feel free to put them in the chat, and or just even raise your hand. And I'm hoping that one of our able team at Kayana will give you the opportunity as well to speak. So maybe Patricia, just be on the lookout for any hands that are up. Yeah, and any comments that that have come in. I think there was somebody who had asked a question around if there are new business. I think this was after Susan's presentation. What happens to new businesses that are looking for funding? Is NCBA open to that? If at all, maybe Susan, you'll be able to take that question. And yeah, Dennis, you can also just speak about, do you invest in businesses that have are at idea stage? I like the fact, I love the example you've given of the yogurt business, because they've been trading on Facebook and Instagram, and we're really big on people showing off their products on social media, which is, I really encourage businesses within our networks to open a social media page and to really begin to share the product, even if it's still in the process of development, because your customers are more likely to tell you what they like and it saves you a lot of time in terms of where to put your energies. Yeah. So you want to ask your question? Do you want to unmute yourself, Tom Muchuku?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
No, I just heard Dennis saying that they don't like funding businesses that have only one product. Yet with the yogurt business, I didn't hear him mention whether they are doing any other product apart from the Greek yogurt. So I was wondering why it looks like it's conflicting.
Oh no, definitely they do.
Maybe I had my own things. Yeah.
No, they do. This is just
Dennis,
one.
Dennis, before you answer, please, when you're asking a question, please introduce yourself and a little bit so that we have some context. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I go ahead and introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Tom Morioki. I work in the construction industry, but also I have another business in agriculture. So I'm trying to do something with coffee. So that's why I'm tuned in for this webinar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to answer your question, remember I said expand into categories that are not opportunistic, but construct a larger brand narrative. So you have to find your entry point. That's always my philosophy. What's your entry point? So their entry point is a Greek yogurt, but they have other, I think, 4 product lines, from kids version of Greek yogurts to other versions of yogurts that I wouldn't mention here. But those other lines of products, they weren't selling them because, one, they didn't have the capital to grow into other product lines, but that is what now we're building around the brand. So their Greek yogurt was their entry point, and they did really a good Greek yogurt brand, but also expanding into other product lines. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But
I just started a business.
Your connection is a bit, I can't hear, I keep missing some of the statements you're saying.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this, there was a comment in the chat for Susan around if you fund new businesses.
Yes, we do not fund startups. We fund businesses that have run for at least 2 years. And just to answer another question that was raised, is whether you will need audited accounts even if you haven't started, having, because it's almost new. Up to 15 million of borrowing, we do not ask for audited accounts. We only rely on your account turnovers and gauge, together with all other analyses, whether your business can be able to repay. So up to 15 million, walk in, let's look at your account turnovers, and we shall be able to give you a solution.
Thank you very much. Doreen Gatobu, I'd like you to ask your question. You can unmute yourself and just ask the question direct to Dennis. Doreen?
So yeah, my name is Doreen Gatobu. And my line of business is construction and building. So I was wondering, why is Dennis so specific with the food and beverage? He's been talking all along about that. So I'm wondering why is he so like, I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. We think food as that everyday product that everyone needs to have in their houses. While if I give an example for construction, housing is a necessity, but housing to me feels like, because I've been there in similar models that I've been doing other service businesses, is more project to project, right? But with food, is an everyday need. There's a significant gap for food security in Africa. And we want to align our funding to what we call our food missions. So one of our food missions is, how do we build healthy, affordable products for everyone in the market? So if you're having a nice product, is not just affordable to people who have like a certain degree of income. So we want to make it accessible to everyone. So it just aligns with our mission and why we think and how we think about food and missions.
Okay,
So
thank you.
That's why we have a bias around food, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Margaret Degwa, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, for the last 1+ years, some of us even just banking any amount that comes in from our businesses has been a bit challenging. So for the lenders, I'm just wondering, do you consider that, probably looking at the history prior to the pandemic? Or do you also consider M-Pesa transactions? Because for some of us, any amount that comes in, it's channeled through the expenses. It hardly hits the account because business has really been slow and low. Thank you.
I'll take that, Margaret, on my end. Yes and no. Number one, we know that all businesses and most businesses have been affected by the pandemic. So we are very cognizant of that. So when you come and we look at prior to the pandemic, how you were performing and how deeply your business has been affected, we may want to wonder, or we ask the question, if we finance you now, what will be the outlook going forward? So yes, we will consider what you were doing before, but also what you're doing now really matters, because going forward, the pandemic is still here with us. So of course you have scaled down. So we'll just consider, to what extent have you scaled down? So we will not finance you based on pre-pandemic. We will finance you on now. And if then you're not banking, we shall look at your M-Pesa. We actually have started looking at M-Pesa because we realize there's a lot of M-Pesa transactions that go around. But then also we want to, if it's M-Pesa, do you have a till? Do you have a pay bill? Is it just, personal money coming in, coming out? So we want, even when it's M-Pesa, can we have a till for you that will then terminate in your account so that it's also easier in future? So when we look at M-Pesa statements, sometimes it becomes a bit confusing. Sometimes there's personal money that comes in and not necessarily business money. So it becomes a bit difficult. But yes, from a conversation between you and I, we'll be able to tick out and see who is buying, who is left in your business, who's buying, how do we grow it now from here? I hope that answers your question, Margaret.
It does. Thank you so much. Probably you'll also leave your number, then I can reach out to you. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Oh, okay. And Dennis, in our conversations in your office, you had mentioned the percentages that you require for businesses to put towards marketing. Maybe you can speak a little bit about that and why is it so important to small and micro businesses?
Yeah, so as thanks for that question. You're very biased about the upside opportunity. So for every funding that you give to a business, we earmark 10 to 15% to go directly to markets. And if you remember the slide that I did show about distribution, we want to make sure that you're not just concentrating your revenue in a few key accounts based on what Susan has said, because if one of those key accounts no longer buys from you, then you're in the red very quickly. So you can even have had a run for say 12 months, and then the last month of the year, one of your key accounts pull out, and then now you're running into losses. So our key focus is really how do we get you into more distribution points, and how do we grow your revenue? So we're very intentional about earmarking funding specifically for your marketing activities. Yeah.
So much. That's important to me because our business is around markets and we're big about access to markets and I believe that there's a link between access to markets and the need for funding. So okay, Duta, I see your name is up. Maybe you can unmute yourself and ask the question, introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for this space. It's a great learning space. My name is Nduta Waithima and I run a business in the health and wellness industry. The business is called Growing with Nature, whereby we use natural products to improve the quality of life. That is, superfoods, and we also do super snacks, and we do formulations from the different superfoods. We've been operational for say 7 to 8 months, and we've been receiving a lot of great testimonials from our new and repeat clients. And so far, the business has great potential to grow, and we're looking to scale the business so that we can reach more people and we can change more lives. So my question would be, do you only, because you mentioned you fund businesses that have been operational for 2 years. Do you consider businesses that have great potential but have not been operational for 2 years? As well, do you help small and growing businesses know how to value their business so that in the time where they want to scale the business, the criteria they would use maybe for equity financing or loan financing, do you support businesses in that regard so that you're able to have good books or put it out there that this is how much you're valued at and this is how much financing you can get? Thank you.
So thank you, Nduta, for that question. If I got it right, you're asking even if you're not 2 years old, can we still consider? Sometimes we do actually consider very exceptionally if you've operated for 1 year or less than the 2 years, very exceptionally. But again, this is not the only parameter that we are looking at. We get very different stories, and if you come up, you come to us with a story of how you used to do it, or and then the future outlook, and we buy the story with, of course, very backed up evidence. We could start and we could finance you, and depending on what is actually on the table. So it's good, don't shy away to engage us when you're not 2 years old, but the 2 years old is a rule. And how it came about is because a lot of businesses, actually SME businesses, and you'll bear me witness, they open and within the next year, it is collapsed. We don't want to collapse with you. We want you to have stabilized, known your way out in this business so that we can work together. So we want to work with a stable business because remember, we are putting in money on your dream. The dream is yours. If you can't be able to carry that dream, as we're just financing into your dream. So that's the rationale behind. Of course, lately we have just realized what used to happen in the past is that most of the people who used to go into business are the illiterate, are the ones who are struggling in life. But nowadays, even those businesses that are collapsing within 2 years are very few, simply because even the learned class and very, very learned class are starting businesses. So we are seeing more of that. And I think we hope that in the future, this we shall do away with and just consider a business proposal that comes to our table. I don't know if that, Nduta, answers your question. We can engage.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Susan.
Yeah.
I hope I got your name right. There's something else that I had mentioned, and I needed a bit more clarification. Are there like any other spaces to engage small and growing businesses that you offer? Say, for example, I've been operational for 7 months or 1 year, and I don't have the skills to know how to value my business, or like when I want to maybe get equity financing or getting loans. Do you offer such kind of support for such businesses?
Yes. If you walk into any of our branches and engage a relationship manager, they will guide you. They will just need to interview you, ask you a few questions and give you recommendations here and there. One of the questions they will ask you is, what are your plans? What do you own? What is the gap? And usually they will even come to your business and try and just evaluate what is the opportunity for your growth so that we can now partner and work together. So advisory services come first even before the funding bit. Sometimes we even speak to a customer and tell them, let's start from here and we shall finance you next year. In the meantime, the money that you're making, let's do 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's not even money. You might just require an instrument. I know I didn't talk about this earlier, but we offer bid bonds, we offer guarantees, we offer non-funded services that you could actually take advantage of now as you wait for the funding or the big funding that could probably propel your business way higher. So it's good to talk to someone so that you walk the journey.
All right, thank you so much. That's really, really helpful.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Susan. That was quite informative. I've seen some questions from Redemptor and Josephine Chalel. If you feel your question was not answered, just let me know. One of them is around asset financing for new businesses. Redemptor, do you feel your question has been addressed? Maybe you can unmute yourself.
Good morning, or is it afternoon? Wow, this is a really new business. It's just 1 month, but it needs the assets, the equipment, because it's a different company or business, and there is a dire need because the area where it is, it's actually water and it is graduating to the others. So that's why I'm asking, and I'm really keen, is it possible to do financing for the assets? And if you do you do it directly for the client, or you finance the client to do it for themselves? Because I guess these machines may not be locally available. They are, they will be sourced outside. the country.
I think
Hello.
Susan, that's for you.
Yeah.
She looks like her internet has. I'll wait for her to get on to the call. Dennis, do you have any comments around asset financing for new businesses? Oh. Susan, are you on?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that for asset finance is an asset that is local, that is available locally. So for example, if you're buying an equipment from Europe, we cannot do an asset finance when the equipment is in Europe. What we can do is give you, an asset finance facility, which will only take place once the equipment is within our borders. So what we do, we offer LC or letters of credit facilities or instruments. If they're acceptable to the seller, we can tell them that once the goods, or once the equipment arrives in the country, we shall pay you. So we shall use the letters of credit that are acceptable to them. Alternatively, we can give you a short-term loan, which you have to secure with something else and not that asset, for you to pay directly to your supplier for the asset to come here, and then we give you for asset finance. So there it becomes just a little bit complicated, but we can do that. But as for your business, which is now very, very young, you said it's about 7 months old, you said?
No, it's actually 1 month, but it's peaking.
Okay.
Yeah, it's peaking, but there is that challenge.
Yeah, that will be very hard to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Unless you have other plans that we can discuss, other businesses that had been running, or maybe a salary that can support, then we can put you under our personal banking unit just to support you with their initial start of the business.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Dennis, I had a question from somebody who was looking to sell the business that's in manufacturing, and
sorry,
oh, you've lost me?
Yeah.
Okay, my internet is somewhat unstable. Maybe if I'll put off my video and see if you can hear me better.
Yeah.
We have a business owner who is looking for somebody to invest in her facility, where she offers cold pressed facility, refrigeration, and basically a supportive business that supports people in this food and beverage industry. Would that be a business that Lisha Fund would be interested in funding?
Yes, because actually we were discussing when we got this contract with this retail store. One of the things we need are chillers or cold stores, but we don't want to overinvest in a chiller or a cold store and the business hasn't picked up. So we can find like rent as a service for chilling facilities. That would be great. Yeah, for the businesses that do perishable goods. Yeah.
Ask her to get in touch with you with regards to that. Josephine, do you feel that your question was adequately addressed by Susan?
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. My name is Josephine. I am in the manufacturing industry, whereby we manufacture soap products, bleach, and some other products. My question was answered well by Susan, and there is another question that I was going to ask Dennis. I like the idea of working together with small businesses. And for you, you are so specific in a food industry. So what about other businesses?
I think I answered the question earlier, but as I said, it aligns with our mission, and we want to be like very mission focused around nutritious, healthy, affordable food. So that's why we just focus on food businesses, unfortunately, or technology businesses supporting food businesses, like what Pat was saying, the cold chain, the chillers, the whatnot, or a technology business that supports supply chain efficiencies within food and drink, those kinds of businesses. So like, yeah, but not a completely different industry.
Thank you, Dennis.
I think I like the specialization, because then you understand the dynamics of the industry pretty well.
Yeah.
So Dennis, you've also, somebody's asked you to share your number as well on the chat, and maybe Susan, you can reshare. It seems like some people, the chat disappeared. So do we have any more questions before we call it a day? I would like to respect your time. We had said 2 hours and we have a couple of minutes left. Any more burning questions for our amazing panelists? From anybody in the team? I've banked with NCBA for a while in my service business, and they've been very supportive in terms of LCs and other facilities. That has been great. So that's just my plug-in for NCBA, as well as being my personal bankers. It's been really great working with you. Doreen, you still want to ask your questions around, or maybe I can ask on your behalf. Susan, you can see Doreen's question in the chat where she's asking, what if they've been banking with other banks? Do you still consider those statements when taking into consideration financing?
Yes, we do. We do consider that you've been banking elsewhere. However, now you've come to us and we want you to bank with us. So as we give you a proposal or an offer for your lending, we put it as a condition that you now must bank with us. We also do takeovers. If you have facilities in your existing bank, we can still plan to do a takeover, as long as you have a benefit when now you're crossing over and you've been performing well. We do not take when you haven't been performing.
Thank you very much. I also see Esther Ngache just saying that this has been a really informative session and she's learned a lot and it's been really, really engaging. I think I can support that. A lots of learning that's been happening. So if there are no more questions, I would just like to say thank you so much to both Susan and Dennis for taking their time this Saturday morning to be with us. This recording, as mentioned earlier, will be available on our YouTube channel. So in case you know anybody who would be interested and there's with lots of the nuggets that have been shared, you can direct them. It'll probably be up at later next week for a period of time. Thank you very, very much, Dennis. Thank you, Susan. And maybe just quickly, we usually do this in our calls. If for those of you who are able to just open your
Patricia, you're muted.
Maybe we can just put them on briefly, our cameras, just briefly, just to say thank you to everybody, anybody who can just put them on, just to see the faces behind the names. And we usually at Kayana, we do a quick wave just to say thank you. Lisa, I see you there. Patricia, thank you. Those are our people. Thank you so much. Josephine, it's lovely to see your face. Yeah, just a quick wave just so they can see that they're human beings. Wangeshi, thank you so much for your engagement and staying on the whole time. I know we have a lot of people with a lot of experience in finance on the call. Linda, I see you there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is feeling like a salam session. But yeah, I just say thank you so much. Everybody who stayed on, Jerry, I see you there, even if your camera is not on. And I hope it's been informative. Please do give us feedback at Kayana on other sessions that you might like to hear or listen to in more detail like this for a good 2 hours in our master classes. Our next one will be around e-commerce and trading on e-commerce, and it proves to be, it will be just as engaging and exciting. Thank you very, very much, Dennis and Susan, and we'll be in touch. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Asante.
Thank you. Thank you.